My 18-year-old cousin revealed this secret, and I couldn't resist. Gay love. I always thought I knew him. He was family, after all. My cousin. The one everyone called the golden boy. Confident, always smiling, and a little too charming for his own good. But that summer, when he came to stay with us for a few weeks, everything changed. I started seeing him differently, not just as my cousin, but as someone I couldn't stop thinking about. It wasn't supposed to happen. I kept telling myself that. But the more time we spent together, late-night movies, sharing the same room, brushing shoulders in the kitchen, the more the line between curiosity and desire blurred. Then, one night, he said something that stopped my heart. A secret. A confession. And from that moment on, I couldn't resist. This story isn't about fantasy. It's about the messiness of feelings, the confusion of wanting something you're not supposed to, and the courage it takes to confront the truth about someone else and about yourself. If you've ever questioned your own feelings, if you've ever felt drawn to someone in a way that scared you, stay with me. Because what happened next changed everything. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and get ready for a story that will leave you breathless. I wasn't expecting him to look like that. When my aunt called and asked if her son could stay with us for a few weeks while she dealt with a last-minute work trip abroad, I said yes without hesitation. I remembered Mateo as a lanky teenager, always buried in his video games, too shy to look people in the eye. But when he stepped off that bus and walked toward me, dragging his duffel bag over one shoulder with that cocky little grin, I swear something inside me shifted. He wasn't the boy I remembered. He was a man. He had filled out in all the right places. Toned arms, a lean chest that pulled at his white t-shirt, sun-kissed skin that made his hazel eyes stand out like embers under storm clouds. His hair was messier now, curls falling across his forehead like he didn't care. And when he hugged me, my body went stiff for a second too long. He didn't notice. Or maybe he did and pretended not to. "Damn, I forgot how hot it gets here," he said, tossing his bag into my truck. "Welcome to Florida," I mumbled, forcing a smile. "You're gonna love the humidity." The drive back to my place was mostly quiet, filled with those awkward pauses that happen when two people are trying to find the right rhythm again. I caught him stealing glances at me a few times. At first, I thought I was imagining it. I mean, why would he? But there was a weight behind his stare, like he wanted to ask something but didn't know how. At home, I gave him the guest room. He looked around, flopped on the bed, and said, "Feels weird being here without Mom." "Yeah," I said, leaning against the doorframe. "But you're welcome here, you know that." He looked up at me and smiled. "Thanks, for real." That night, I couldn't sleep. I told myself it was because I wasn't used to sharing the house, that his presence was just throwing off my routine. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was, I kept replaying the way he hugged me, the way his hands lingered on my back, the way his breath had brushed the side of my neck. I felt dirty for thinking about it, for noticing. But the thoughts kept coming. The next few days were strange in all the quiet ways. We'd cook breakfast together and bump into each other in the kitchen. He'd come out of the shower with a towel slung low around his waist, talking to me like it was nothing, while I pretended to scroll on my phone and not look. We watched movies late at night, sitting way too close on the couch, and every now and then, his knee would press against mine. He didn't move, neither did I. But I told myself I was imagining things. He was my cousin, younger, off limits, confident but not stupid. This was just my mind playing tricks on me. I was the one reading into things. I was the one projecting. Until one afternoon, I walked into the guest room without knocking. He had just changed, or maybe not yet, because he was standing there in nothing but briefs, toned and glistening with sweat from the floor to heat, and I froze. His eyes met mine. He didn't cover up. He didn't panic. He just looked at me and smirked. "Like what you see," he said. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Then he added, "You can knock, you know. Or maybe you don't have to." I stepped back, heart hammering in my chest. He didn't laugh. He didn't say it was a joke. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't the only one feeling it. But what did he mean by that? Was he testing me? Was this some kind of game? Or was it something else entirely? I closed the door and leaned against it, breathing, shaking, wanting more than anything to open it again. But not yet. Not until I knew the truth. The next morning, I avoided him. I got up early, made some excuse about needing to run errands, and left the house before he could even come out of his room. I needed space, not just from him, but from myself. I drove without a destination, stopped for coffee I didn't want, sat in the parking lot with my head spinning. Why did he say that? "You can knock, or maybe you don't have to." It wasn't just the words. It was the way he said them. That look in his eyes, the half smile, like he knew exactly what he was doing to me. I kept asking myself, was it flirtation, sarcasm, a challenge, or something more honest than I was prepared for? I didn't come back until after sunset. The lights were off in the house. I figured he was asleep. Part of me hoped he was. I moved quietly down the hallway, trying not to draw attention to myself. And then I heard it. Music. Soft, low, coming from his room. He wasn't asleep. I hovered outside his door, hand raised to knock, and then let it fall. I stood there for a moment longer, then walked away. I went to my room, turned on the ceiling fan to drown out the silence, and lay on my bed, staring at the ceiling. 5 minutes later, there was a knock. "Hey," he said, cracking my door open. He was wearing joggers and a loose tank top. His hair was messy, like he'd been lying down. "You okay?" "Yeah," I lied. "Just tired." He stepped in anyway. "Can we talk?" I nodded, heart beating fast. He sat on the edge of my bed, looked down at his hands, then back at me. "Did I make you uncomfortable yesterday?" I didn't answer right away. I didn't know what to say. "I didn't mean to," he added quickly. "I was just testing something, I guess. Or maybe hoping you'd see what I've been too scared to say." I swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" I asked, barely getting the words out. He looked straight at me. "I've liked you for a long time," he said. "Long before I understood what it meant. I thought it was just admiration, like you were older, cool, confident. But last year it hit me. It wasn't admiration. It was something else. Something I didn't think I could ever say out loud." I sat up, stunned. "You're serious?" I asked. He nodded. "I came here hoping it would go away, but then I saw you again and it just got worse. Or better, I don't know." I searched his face. There was no sarcasm, no grin, just vulnerability. He was nervous. I could tell by the way he played with the drawstring of his joggers, twisting it between his fingers. "I don't want to ruin anything," he continued. "I just needed you to know. You don't have to say anything. I just couldn't keep it inside anymore." I didn't know how to breathe. I had spent days second-guessing every glance, every accidental touch. I thought it was all in my head. I thought I was the one crossing lines. But now, it was real. He felt it too. I sat in silence, staring at him. He looked at me like he was ready to be rejected. I don't know what to say, I whispered. You don't have to say anything tonight, he said, standing up slowly. I'm gonna go, but if you want to talk, really talk, I'm here. He walked to the door, paused, then turned back. I just hope this doesn't change how you see me. Then he left. And I sat there in the dark, every part of me on fire. Because the truth was, it did change how I saw him. Not in a bad way, in a way I wasn't ready to admit even to myself. I got up in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep. My mind kept going back to the way he looked at me. Scared, honest, exposed. And the worst part? I wanted to go to his room. I stood outside his door again. Just like before. Hand raised. One knock. Just one, and everything would change. But then I heard movement inside. Footsteps. And suddenly the door opened. He was standing there, in the dark, looking right at me. I didn't move. Neither did he. We just stood there, facing each other in the dim light spilling from the hallway behind me. His expression was unreadable, not shocked, not smug, just patient, like he'd known I would come eventually. I heard you, Mateo said, voice low, almost careful. I looked down, ashamed. I didn't mean to. It's okay, he interrupted softly. You don't have to explain. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was electric. My heart pounded in my chest like it was trying to break free. He stepped aside, just a little, just enough to leave the door open. Just enough for me to decide. I don't know what possessed me, but I stepped inside. He closed the door behind me. The room was warm and smelled like laundry and his cologne. Something clean and quiet and him. The only light came from the window, where moonlight outlined the edge of the bed and cast a soft glow on his skin. We didn't speak. He sat down first, and I followed, careful to leave space between us. That space felt like 1,000 miles. My hands were cold, but my skin burned. I meant what I said, he whispered, eyes fixed on the floor. About liking you. I'm not ashamed of it anymore. I turned toward him, trying to find the right words, but everything in me was tangled. Logic, guilt, want. I shouldn't be here, I said. But you are. I don't know what I'm doing. I think you do. There was a moment of stillness, just breathing, tension, silence. And then, slowly, he reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. His fingers were warm, and the touch wasn't rushed. It was gentle, like he knew this moment had to be handled like glass. Beautiful, but fragile. He looked up at me, and I saw it then. Not lust, not fantasy, but something terrifyingly real. I never thought you'd come tonight, he said. But I hoped. I held his gaze. I shouldn't want this. But you do. I closed my eyes. Because he was right. I did. There was something about him. Maybe it was the honesty, the calm in his voice, the trust in his eyes. Or maybe it was the way he saw me when I couldn't even see myself. I wasn't used to someone holding my truth so gently, without judgment. And yet, here he was, doing exactly that. I turned to him, slowly, and in one reckless second, I leaned in, not even fully, just enough for our foreheads to touch. He exhaled. Neither of us moved beyond that, just breath shared in the space between us. He didn't try to kiss me, he didn't push, and that restraint made me want him more. Not physically, emotionally. I wanted to know what it would feel like to be wanted like that for real, for more than a night or a thrill. "I don't know what this means," I murmured. "It doesn't have to mean anything yet," he said. I stayed like that for what felt like forever, feeling his breath, feeling mine, wondering how I had ended up here and why it felt so right. But then, a sharp noise broke everything. The front door slammed. We froze. I pulled back fast, heart suddenly thudding for a different reason. "Who the hell?" I whispered. He stood, eyes wide. "You said your roommate was out of town." "He is." Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Heavy, confident. Then a knock, not on Mateo's door, on mine. I stared at him. His eyes were full of panic now. Another knock, louder. "Hey!" a deep voice called. "You home?" I whispered. "Shit. It's Mark." Mark. My best friend. My ex. The guy who still had a key. The guy who couldn't know I was in this room. The guy who, once, I thought I might love. Before he hurt me. Mateo whispered, "Go." But I couldn't move. Because now I wasn't just scared of what Mark would think. I was scared of what I'd do if he saw me walk out of this room, from Mateo's room. Mark was already in the living room when I stepped out. He turned, beer in hand, that familiar smirk plastered across his face like he belonged here. "You left the door unlocked," he said casually. "Figured I'd surprise you." I laughed nervously. "Yeah, totally surprised." Mateo's door remained closed behind me. I felt his presence like heat on my back. I prayed Mark hadn't seen me come out, but something in his eyes shifted. "You okay?" he asked, narrowing his gaze. "You look like you saw a ghost." I shrugged. "Just tired. Didn't sleep well." Mark chuckled. "Still bad at lying." There was always something unnerving about how easily Mark could read me, and something dangerous in the way he used to twist it. The room felt too small with him in it, too loud, too charged. He sat on the couch and patted the spot beside him. "Sit. Tell me what's been going on." I hesitated. In that pause, Mateo stepped into the hallway. And Mark saw him. Everything in the air turned sharp. "Didn't know you had company," Mark said slowly. "He's my cousin," I replied instantly. Mark raised an eyebrow, his smirk returning. "Interesting timing." Mateo offered a polite nod, then disappeared back into his room. I sat beside Mark, but my body was with Mateo. My mind, my heart, they were behind that door. Mark looked at me sideways. "Be careful," he said, voice low. "Sometimes family can surprise you." I didn't know what he meant, but I knew it wasn't good. That night, Mateo didn't knock, he didn't text, he didn't even come out for dinner. And it killed me. Mark had left, but the storm he brought still lingered in the air like smoke. I paced, opened Mateo's door once, then closed it again. I couldn't read his silence. Was he hurt? Regretting everything? Or just scared? Near midnight, I finally found the courage to speak. I knocked, gently. He opened the door, already dressed in a hoodie, backpack half-zipped. "I'm leaving tomorrow," he said. The words hit like a punch. "What? Why?" He looked down. Whatever this is, it's too confusing, too risky. No, I said, stepping closer. We're just figuring it out. He stared at me for a long time. Then, without warning, he kissed me. Soft. Final. Then he whispered, "Good night." He was gone by morning. No note, no text. Just silence. I sat in the kitchen, coffee untouched, heart cracked open like something sacred had been dropped and shattered. It wasn't just about desire. It was about finally feeling seen. He saw me. Not the version I showed the world, but the mess beneath it. And I saw him, braver than I ever expected, honest in ways I wasn't ready to be. A week later, I got a message. Just one line. I meant everything. I smiled through tears, because I did too. Sometimes love doesn't arrive with certainty. Sometimes it comes in whispers, glances, and truths that take everything to admit. But when it does come, it leaves you changed. If you've ever fallen for someone you thought you weren't supposed to, if you've ever questioned your feelings or stayed silent out of fear, maybe this story made you feel less alone. And if it did, don't go. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, turn on the notifications, because stories like this, stories that show we're all just trying to figure it out, are only just beginning.